I'm trying. It's moving too fast.
Oh, this is not good.
In all my years playing TF2, this game I joined may have been my lowest point. I entered this server and found myself surrounded by bots. The majority of the players were indeed bots. But this was back in March, and fortunately, things have improved since then. A little bit at least. We are still seeing plenty of bots at the time of making this video, with quite a variety of names and features, and I've even seen these quite humorously named anti-bot bots, which unfortunately do not function as advertised. Maybe next we'll see some definitely not bot bots? But in my experience they seem to be moving away from the more conspicuous names, presumably to make them a little bit more difficult to spot. We have also seen bots that call for a vote kick on random players, so please be careful and don't vote yes by default. Again, this is likely another delay tactic because while a vote is in progress, the bots remain safe. But due to the recent patches, we are at the very least no longer being stripped naked of our cosmetics, and this was an exploit that has been around for much longer than you might imagine, but has just recently had some more attention and is now thankfully fixed for the time being. We are also seeing less text spam, although I've heard people say that they are still seeing this, so let me know if that's the case for you, and I've personally not experienced any audio spam since the last update either. So things are ever changing, and what we're witnessing now is a kind of cat and mouse scenario between a very small number of devs at Valve who thankfully continue to choose to work on TF2 and a number of programmer hobbyists, many of which are students and so have plenty of time on their hands to continue to develop and host these bots. We will see a new feature being used more prominently. Valve will then try to fix this, and then the bots will respond, and Valve again in turn will respond. Poor free-to-plays, getting caught in the crossfire of the situation. And all this will likely go on for a while until a more permanent solution is created, such as an update to VAC. And I think it's safe to say that the team at Valve are very likely working towards this goal, while they're making these more immediate fixes. Now, there are many videos about this topic, so why am I chiming in? Well, there's a lot of misinformation and speculation out there. It's easy to get confused as to what's going on. When I saw these bot names, I had no idea what it all meant. Are they all coming from the same place? Do they have an agenda? How are they organised? I just wanted to find out more about what was going on, so I decided to chat with some of the developers who are currently working on these bots, with the hope of being able to shed more light on the topic. So first up, let's remind ourselves of where the bots originated from. These bots originated from an open source project created in C++ for Linux. The project has been around since 2017 when they used the name Catbot, which I'm sure we all remember. The original creator was inspired by this video of a walk bot and decided to build upon this code just for enjoyment. The original creator has since left the project, but there are now 2 main active devs on the project at the moment, as well as a handful of other contributors. These individuals are responsible for developing the code, but not necessarily for hosting the bots. I've been told that there are currently 3 to 5 hosts, which seemed surprisingly low to me, but of course each host will run anywhere between 10 to 40 plus bots on their machines, and I'm sure these figures are frequently changing. What's important to understand is that each host can go on to customize their bots, adding new features and their own brand, if you like, and this is why we're seeing such a variation in terms of their names and functionality. On top of all this, we still of course see the more typical cheater who are able to get their cheats from various vendors online, but to confuse things further, some of the bots have been using the names from these vendors, and it's not particularly clear why. It's difficult to say because these companies of course deny any responsibility, although the thought of a company selling cheats trying to protect its reputation I find a little bit amusing. These companies could be using the bots to advertise, but we don't know for sure. So we have the bots and their individual branded versions, and we have the cheaters who are using various online vendors, but then there's also MyGoat. I like to pronounce it my goat, because when I first saw it, that's what I read, and so forevermore I now see my goat. This doesn't fit into either of these two categories. This is simply a community of griefers that have been around for a long time. They adamantly claim that they have no involvement with the bots, again even saying that they are being framed, so to speak, but I personally don't see how anyone from their community could confidently say this, as I'm doubting there's a lot of organisation or policing within their group. Anyway, at this point we're getting into drama territory, and at the end of the day, who cares? All you need to know is that MyGot is a community of trolls who at the very least did not create the bots themselves, and whether an individual from this group are using them for fun or to promote their group further, it's not clear, but at the same time, it doesn't really matter. So as you can see, there are a lot of moving parts and a lot of groups involved, and I'm sure there are many aspects that I've missed. The original project continues to evolve while at the same time each of the hosts add their own touches, so it's no surprise that people have been confused, and I don't know about you, but I can't help but sympathise with the devs at Valve who are trying to tackle this problem. The fixes we have seen so far have felt a little bit reactive and temporary, but I'm hoping that the team are working on a longer term solution. But honestly, it's uplifting to see that some effort is being put into the game, especially when we see non-essential changes being thrown in too. And of course, this all fills my little optimistic heart with hope about the potential for future updates. Now, I know there are two camps when it comes to opinions on Valve. There are those that are rightfully angry at Valve for not doing enough, and there are those that appreciate anything that they are drip fed. But the way I see it is that we need to separate the company from the individuals. Valve, sure, they are big fat rich scumbags, but the dev team working on TF2, they're just human beings doing their job, probably working very hard on TF2 out of choice, and personally I can't see hate from the TF2 community being beneficial. Every time we see an update, true, the fixes seem a little bit rushed and not holistic, but we don't know the full story. I've worked with developers for 10 years and things are often not as simple as they seem from the outside. Who knows what stress these guys are under, what other things they're working on and juggling, and let's not forget that they are working with tasty spaghetti code. All in all, I think pressuring Valve is good, but we should try and give love and support to these individuals on the TF2 team. It's a real shame that TF2 is not a priority at the moment, but unfortunately that's the reality. And naively, I can't help but think it would just be easy for Valve to Thanos snap this problem away, throw some money or resources at it, even hire some people who clearly want to work on TF2. And so I too am frustrated at the situation, but I don't think that the TF2 team is to blame. You never know, Valve may have added more resources to the team to help with the whole PR problem that they have received recently, but that could be wishful thinking.
A rabbit is in the administration system.
Send a flu shot.
Rabbit, flu shot, someone talk to me.
If anyone tries to tell you that the people responsible for creating and hosting these bots are doing it to try and get Valve's attention, to encourage updates, or for any other notable cause, then I can assure you that this is not the case. This gives them far too much credit. TF2 has proven to be exploitable, and so individuals have flocked to take advantage of this. If anything, it's simply slowing down and even preventing further work on TF2 updates. So why do they do it? I've talked about this in the past, and as we've just seen, there are lots of individuals involved, each I'm sure with their own motivations, but broadly speaking I think it comes down to three main reasons: being a troll and getting a reaction, programming and reverse engineering, and wanting to watch the world burn. I honestly can't wrap my head around why these people would do this, why they would want to spend their time in this way. Why not do something more productive or helpful? They could be making money for doing something very similar, or if you really enjoy specifically this, why not spend more time on the heavy bot that goes around giving out sandwiches and less time on the sniper bot that spams offensive stuff? I'm pretty sure that heavy bot actually exists. I get the impression that these people very much enjoy the situation. It's a challenge for them, and as long as they are getting away with it and they are continuing to find vulnerabilities in TF2, they will go on to try and break the game. To me, hosting 40 bots in a game you play, it's the digital equivalent of vandalism. I'm going to break some stuff just because I can. I always try to think about this from a psychological perspective, which is probably unwise, but it's what intrigues me the most. Why host bots? I kind of get the impression that some of them might think that they're kind of like Mr. Robot or something. Who knows? I'm pretty sure that if any of them are watching, they'll be cringing right now at my every word. One thing I do know is that nobody I spoke to admitted to having any regrets or remorse, and pretty much every party involved deny any responsibility for what they're doing. The developers of the bot itself will say it's just a hobby, it's open source, and what's happening can't be helped. The companies that sell cheats will say they're just meant for private servers, we mean no harm. This is hilariously deceitful. The people who host these bots will say they're just having fun and that Valve should do a better job at protecting their game. And the griefing community will say that we never use bots, we only use cheats, we wouldn't want to harm the game. There are undoubtedly more people leaving the game than normal at the moment, and sadly that includes some content creators. There are though, on the other hand, still players coming into the game, which warms my heart to see, but of course they're having a bit of a crap time. So what can we do? There have been some other videos on this topic, so I won't spend too long on this, but my advice would be as follows. Keep doing an awesome job at kicking bots quickly. We are now the VAC ban system. The TF2 community are doing an awesome job at kicking these bots at lightning speed. Most of the time at least. Start reporting bots as well, either using F7 or by clicking this button here. Enjoy community servers like creators.tf or my one or Uncle Dane's. There are loads out there. Enjoy community projects like Open Fortress and TF2 Classic. Raise awareness, but don't speculate and dramatise the situation. Provide feedback to the dev team at Valve, but don't attack them. Maybe attack Gaben if you want, just joking. There are videos on which loadouts are useful for countering bots if you're interested, so check those out. By the way, Demoman doesn't need line of sight to attack people, so I've actually had some quite fun games with bots in. And if you find a nice full server, try and stick around if you can, because whilst the server is full, a bot can't sneak its way in. But most importantly, keep playing TF2. As George Herbert said, living well is the best revenge. Sometimes it's hard to ignore, but try to not let them take up your thoughts and energy. I know this is ironic, seeing as I'm making like a 15-minute video about the topic. TF2 is durable and resilient. It's a timeless classic at this point, and it's even had a bit of a recent growth spurt. And the more people who play, the more we outnumber the bots, and the less harmful they become. And finally, remember that each host can customize which maps their bots appear on. Some use more popular maps or game modes, so if you're struggling to find, for example, a good 2-fort game, you might want to try mixing it up. And whilst we're on the topic, let me know what maps you're seeing the most bots on, and also what regions of the world are having the most problems. That would be really interesting to see in the comments below. As you can see, TF2 is in a bit of a pickle, to put it lightly. The world of bots and cheating can seem mysterious and secretive from an outsider's perspective, but actually, at the heart of it, it's almost disappointingly bland. You can't help but at first imagine some evil mastermind genius with a twisted agenda who is behind the entire bot problem. But at the end of the day, it's just a group of nerds like us, but instead of their hobby being to play the game, it's to try and break it. We have to accept that there are always going to be people who will try to do this to every single game. It's just frustrating that, in our case, we have a development team working on the game that are under-resourced. And it's worse still when you see other games like CSGO getting updates that are tackling similar problems. And you can't help but think that if Dota had an issue like this, it would be fixed in a matter of hours. But as we've all come to understand, we are the unloved child of Gaben. Feels bad, man. Let's hope that in the near future we'll see a more solid and permanent solution to this problem. Let's hope we get our free-to-plays voices back, #equal rights for free-to-plays or something. And maybe one day we can even hope for another major update, once the dev team have finished with their game of whack-a-mole. Or maybe this has all been one massive ARG for a new MVM update. You never know.
The enemy has taken our intelligence.
That's good, Scrumpet!
The scout is a spy!